Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 109. Thank you for joining us, as always, on this Turtle Beached Tuesday evening, Earth date April 4th, 2017. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Horsetti von Bandaghetti. Hi, Horsetti.
Hello, how are you? I'm Horsetti Bandaghetti.
Horsetti von Bandaghetti.
Yes, no, Von is my father's name.
I really had to make sure to not crack up through that one, because that one fucking gets me every time.
What is that? Horsetti von Bandaghetti?
Bandaghetti.
Bandaghetti.
Yeah, like banjo and spaghetti mixed together.
Was that your thought process behind that name?
No, but it's just as funny to think about it.
So, I mean, would that be like an Italian hillbilly?
I don't know, maybe.
Bandaghetti?
Bandaghetti.
Well, we're changing it now. It's got to be Bandaghetti. Because there's a banjo in there.
No.
No?
Nope.
Pretty firm on the D, huh?
I'm pretty sure that I made up the fucking name and you're going to like it the way I have it.
Fair enough, sir. So I'm, of course, your co-host, Brandon Full.
Right.
The real Brandon Full.
The real Horsetti.
Much like Slim Shady, I'm going to stand up.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I'm not actually going to stand up. I'm recording from my apartment, not at Remington's studio, staring into his eyes, sitting on his beautiful leather seats, petting a cat like Blofeld. I'm on the floor of my unvacuumed apartment.
Unvacuumed.
In sleep pants.
See, you're way more comfortable there than you would ever be here. Why do you insist upon coming to my house?
Because I think our banter works better, and I like looking you in the eyes.
Well, that's sweet and all, but every time you make eye contact with me in real life, you start touching yourself, and it's awkward.
Yeah, well, I guess that is a plus that I can do it here unabated.
Yeah, because I can't see what's going on past your chest. So
it's funny because I use the word unabated, but there's definitely a lot of baiting.
Seems like you're baiting for a joke there.
That's wordplay.
It's bad.
It's one of the many things that Dueling Ogres podcast brings to you.
That's right. So what have you been up to, Brandon Horsetti?
I have not really been doing a whole lot. I've been reading. I have almost finished Viscount Terry W. Ervin II's newest book, Thunder Wells. I've got about 30, 40 pages left on it. I'm kind of to the climax.
Yeah.
So I've really been enjoying that. And besides that, I've started playing Farcry again.
That sounds terrible. Why would you play Farcry? Isn't that series dead?
You have Far Cry 4. There's going to be another Far Cry at some point. The Far Cry engine's fantastic. And that's the thing, like, I guess I'll get into it real quick. So
yeah, sure.
The newest game that they put out was Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Which came out, I don't know, a month ago, maybe at this point. PS4 exclusive. And that game is a system seller. Like, that game is getting really, really, really high marks.
Okay.
It's done by the same publisher. I don't know if it's the same team that worked on Far Cry, but it's the same publisher and they use a lot of the same engine, the Far Cry engine.
Yeah.
And that game's doing really, really well. I think the Far Cry engine is a fantastic engine for a system.
Yeah.
The main complaint that I've seen that people have with Ubisoft as far as the Far Cry engine goes and games that run off of it is there's just a bajillion quests. There's a bajillion things to do, which doesn't seem like a downside, but you look at the map and it's like, okay, you have 50 masks to collect and you have 100 journals and you have 150 of this and that. You look at the map in the game and it's like there's a dot every 2 feet.
So it's just littered with UI enhancement.
Yeah, and people's complaints that I've seen on that is that they put that in lieu of actual story. That story is very light, and it's just kind of stuff to pad out the game.
Yeah. So what do you think of that? I mean, do you think that there is a lack of story?
Well, I'm having a fucking blast in Far Cry.
Okay.
I love the Far Cry series. I played 2 a little bit. I've played 3 some, but I've really sunk my teeth into 4.
Yeah.
And I'm having more fun in Far Cry 4 than I've had in video games in a long time.
Yeah.
It's just so you're running through the map, you find a 4-wheeler, you start riding on a 4-wheeler, first person controls, you ramp the 4-wheeler off the cliff, immediately eject and pop out your wingsuit and glide through the air, pop out your parachute and do that. Like, it's just, there's so much open world. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff on the map is there for padding. I don't even really know what the story is in Far Cry.
Fair enough.
It's so condensed that when you actually do get a story mission, at least for me, the person will start talking and I'll have no fucking clue what they're talking about. But it all boils down to like, go here and kill this thing, or go here and get this thing and bring it back. Yeah. So I could see reason in people's complaints that it's very surface level as far as the story goes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm enjoying it.
Well, if you're enjoying it, I guess that's really all that matters. But, you know, it seems like one of those things when you're building such a massive world, it's just like building a world for D&D. I mean, you have the side quest bullshit that you kind of have to do. Like, maybe you just need to go do some side jobs to level yourself up because you can't beat that next boss. Mm-hmm. But I guess at the same time, you know, whenever we play D&D, we just go through the boss, and if we die, we die.
Yeah.
So we just respawn, I guess, if we have to.
The thing that I've been doing lately that I'm finding a lot of fun with Far Cry is I started to do assassination missions where it'll be like, okay, here's this compound. Go into the compound, kill the general, loot his body without anybody seeing you.
Okay. And
the general will be in a warehouse. So it's like there's a guard posted at the front door. So you have to, it's really heavy in like using your camera to tag the soldiers so they have like a little reticle above their head, so you watch their patrol movements and sneak in. Yeah, like you really have to plan it out, kind of like a Tom Clancy game where every move you do has to matter or you're going to get seen, and if you see, boom, mission failed, start over.
Right.
So I'm terrible at that, so what I've done is equipped a rocket launcher as one of my main weapons. And anytime I get one of those, I'll stand as far away as possible and just fire a rocket into the warehouse and then just hide until everybody calms down and then go sneak in and loot the guy's body. So I'm not really going with the spirit of the quest, but
yeah. But you're getting the job done, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. And then I'll mention Thunder Wells and what I think of that when we do our wrap up at the end.
Okay. So speaking of video games, it looks like Bioware is making changes for Mass Effect Andromeda starting Thursday.
What are they changing?
Looks like they are doing some... You can find the full patch notes over at the Bioware blog. But things like improved tutorial placement, single-player balance changes like ammo crates and weapons and progression. Multiplayer balance changes, weapons cover and enemies, improved logic and timing and continuity for relationships and story arcs, improved lip sync and facial acting.
That was the big one.
Yeah. Fixed various collision issues.
Mass Effect seems like a shame so far. And I'll say that I haven't played it.
Yeah.
But
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead and ask your question. That might lead into what I was going to say better.
One of the things that we've talked about before is just it seems like game companies now they can fix this stuff after it's released.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what you were going to get into, but the unfortunate thing is that whatever company is providing the money for the game, you know, whatever deadline you have to have, they say, okay, get it to a working order and then release it because you have a deadline. And it's come to this point where the developers are like, okay, we'll get it. You know, we'll put a little bit of polish on this turd and then push it out and then fix all the problems after the fact.
Yeah.
And that seems like it's a very unfortunate thing for the end consumer, not having what is essentially a complete game.
Well, in Mass Effect Andromeda's case, the reviews coming out for it are good. It's not getting bad reviews. What kind of killed it going into it is if you had EA Access, which is like a sort of Netflix thing you can pay for on consoles.
Yeah.
Where you can access EA games earlier, like 2-3 days. I think Mass Effect was maybe a week earlier.
Yeah.
People started playing it, and the facial animations were so meme worthy. They're just so silly looking a lot of times, and the walking animations get real wonky.
Yeah.
So everybody started sharing that, and that word of mouth spread before Andromeda even hit.
Right.
And there's always a section of fans, not even just in video games, in movies, comics, pretty much anywhere there's a fandom. There's always a section of people who like the opposite, who want that to fail so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of people who were pushing for Andromeda to fail as just kind of a ha-ha, you got your hopes up and the game's not good.
Yeah.
But the game and again, I haven't played it, but from every review I've read, it's like, it's good. You know, it's not going to blow anybody's minds, but it's good. It's a Mass Effect game.
Yeah. And I mean, the Mass Effect games are known for their choice and their story, and just your ability to control the end game, the end story of your character.
Yeah.
You know, you always have a few different endings, and it's a make your own story style of video game.
Yeah, it's very heavily based on the choices you make.
Right.
Although that kind of goes into what they talk about with the Telltale games, like the Walking Dead Telltale games and all that.
Yeah.
They really more give you the illusion of choice than actual choice.
Yeah. I mean, another thing about gamers is that they do like to be on rails by and large. I think the people who don't like to be on rails are the people, well, even World of Warcraft on an MMO, even an MMO. And I mean, there are way more open world MMOs than even Warcraft.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to, I could do zero storyline in World of Warcraft and just go around and do random quests. I mean, there are some that'll open up as I continue going, but, you know, I don't have to pay attention to the storyline. Or I could just, you know, mine for an eternity and work the auction house because some people find that enjoyable.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, there's options out there. But by and large, the you know, the main storyline is pretty on rails. I mean, there's no getting around that. So if you are playing a game and you want to indulge in a story, then you're going to play through the story mode, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're playing a game because you want it to be sandboxy and open world, then you pick a game that's an MMO or something that boasts that kind of thing, and just or a resources game like Minecraft or one of those other ones,
or my sweet baby lover Bethesda games and Bethesda Studios and all of their games.
Yeah, your baby mama.
The thing that's weird, and I'll wrap up on this with Mass Effect because I didn't intend to really get into it, because again, I haven't played it, so I don't want to seem like I'm shitting on something I haven't played, because I don't know.
Right.
From the advertising I saw, because they did a lot of advertising for Mass Effect at NASA where I work.
Right.
And the advertising was so all over the place because it advertised itself almost as more of a third-person action shooter like Gears of War than as an actual role-playing game that Mass Effect is.
Uh-huh.
So from the reviews that I've read and what people have been saying, it skews more towards the role-playing game aspect that a Mass Effect does, but it also has a lot more third-person cover-based shooter combat than the previous ones did. So it seems like it's kind of trying to split the difference on what sort of game it wants to be, which makes it that it's not a super great game at either.
Yeah, I got you. Trying to do too many things at once and not being really good at one thing.
Yeah. The unfortunate part is the character creation was immediately lambasted as being terrible, that you couldn't make a normal looking human.
Yeah.
That was particularly funny to me because, again, at NASA, we ran a commercial on our NASA built-in TV system where somebody is interviewing one of the main creators of Mass Effect before it comes out. And she asks him, about the character creation system. And he's like, oh yeah, the character creation system is great. You can make some of the ugliest people I've ever seen. I look forward to seeing people's ugliest creations. And that ran for like 2 weeks after Mass Effect came out. And I was just thinking, like, that guy's got to be shaking his head at home right now. Like, why did I say that? I just gave them ammunition.
Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, I guess if that's what you want to be proud of.
I think he was speaking to how customizable the character creation was, and he had to have just been talking out of his ass because the character customization is very limited.
Oh yeah, see, I haven't even had a chance to look at any of the controls or anything on it. I don't game on a console, and I'm certainly not going to pick it up for PC. I mean, Kevin, it was always the big guy for playing Mass Effect. He loved the Mass Effect games. I enjoyed playing them while he had them, but I didn't go out of my way to buy my own.
Yeah, I tried to play 1 and hated it. I bought 2, I don't know, maybe like 8-10 months ago, and put probably 6 or 7 hours into it before I just kind of stopped. I really enjoyed what I played of it. It's just with so many kids running around here and different shit I'm doing during the day, Mass Effect is one of those games that you need like some quiet, a nice evening, and sit and get some real role playing and story in.
Right.
But do you think video games are the only medium or one of the only mediums that you can do, going back to your original point that we totally got distracted on, that you can release something unfinished? Not even just speaking to Mass Effect, but this is something that plagues the gaming industry in particular. Releasing something unfinished, getting those initial money, and then, a week, 2 weeks later, as people kind of cry about it, be like, okay, yeah, now we're going to release this thing that fixes the tutorial. Like, fixing the tutorial is one of the simplest fucking things. That would be something you would have playtesters who, however many 10s, 20s, 50s of playtesters you have are going to be like, hey, maybe we need to add in more tutorials.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, number one, tutorial wise, I don't think that there should have to be any fixes in a tutorial. I mean, unless it's just a glaring, like, proper bug.
Yeah, that's pretty much the backbone of your fucking game, right?
Exactly. Like, I mean, you want people to know how to play your fucking game.
Yeah.
So having a good tutorial section seems to make sense to me. I don't really mind if they want to release a mostly complete game, as long as they call it a mostly complete game. You know what I mean? It shouldn't fall to the consumer to assume that a game that they are going to put their money into is going to be unfinished, unless they're willing to do so beforehand. I mean, that maybe that'll affect sales. Maybe everybody's used to it enough that it doesn't matter. Because, I mean, Mass Effect is just one instance in many where this has been the case lately.
Yeah, well, Mass Effect is huge. I mean, there's no way in a million years that a AAA game, they're going to come out and be like, hey, it's still coming out, but it's kind of fucked up, so bear with us.
Yeah.
They're never going to say that. I mean, you look at so many games, you buy them midnight release, buy a game, before you can even play it, you've got like a 10 gig day one patch.
Yeah.
They know that it's being printed and like, oh, we found a bug, or we're shipping it with a bug. Let's get that patch out, fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they think that they shouldn't, or the fact that they don't is just, it's stupid. Because at this point, everybody knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, call a spade, I guess.
I mean, if you want to really drop some 1950s slang, I guess you can, but I'm talking
about shovels.
Oh, okay. God. I think that the movie industry is actually catching on to that.
Does that make it okay?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, a shovel. All right, gotcha.
Shovels, gotcha. It's all coming together now.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. So what about the movie industry?
I think the movie industry has kind of caught onto the fact that people will deal with that. Whenever you release a game and it's unfinished, or there's things missing, or there's issues, and you say, hey, a week from now, a month from now, we're working on a patch for it, people are like, okay, that sucks, but that's just how it works.
Yeah.
The movie industry has kind of started to do the same thing. First ones come to mind, and I know I seem like I always shit on DC, I guess because I kind of do a little bit, but Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. while they were both still in theaters, the directors of both of those were like, as they were getting shitty reviews, they said, I had to cut a lot of stuff, wait for it to come out on Blu-ray. There's an extra 45 minutes. It's really going to tie the movie together.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking principle, right? Like, hey, here, buy this thing. Once you see it, you don't really like it. It's not really finished. Now wait until you get it again, though, and then it's going to be way better 6 months from now.
I guess I can see where you're coming from with the movies doing this extra content that comes out, but see, I don't equate that, I guess, to the same level as I would the video game releases and then the patches to fix the bugs that they should have gotten in the first place, or that they should have taken the time to do.
Yeah, well, why not, though? What's the difference to you?
To me, I guess the difference is if they release a movie, it is my hope that they release a full movie. You know, there's a beginning, a middle, and end. You tell whatever story you're going to tell. If there is more to that story that you wished you could have included, but for some reason the studio said, no, we got to nix it for whatever reason, or we've got to keep it within the certain amount time limit or what have you, then releasing a director's cut. I mean, that's something that's happened for a long time in movies. You know, having a director's cut or a Criterion edition or something to that effect.
But specifically, like in the case of Batman v Superman, in that movie, Lex Luthor's reasoning for doing what he's doing is unclear. The only real clear reason is he doesn't like him. He kind of wants to start shit. That's it. That's what the theatrical release of the movie sets up. It's kind of unclear. Yeah. Then when you look at the extended version, it goes more into not backstory necessarily, but it goes more into how he knows the things he does, why he's doing the things he's doing that makes the story cohesive. And that's my argument is they did release a movie that wasn't finished. You know, you saw people coming out of it and being like, what was Lex even doing? Like, why was he doing that? It makes no sense.
Well, that's because Zack Snyder is a putz.
You think he's a putz?
I think he's a putz. I think if you're going to put out...
harsh words. A putz, huh?
He's a putz. I think it's... I think that there was probably pressure from the studio to do something. You know, whether it was cut certain parts out or whether it was to fit into a certain time venue, or maybe they just didn't like the way that the script set up Luthor's reasoning for doing what he was doing. Mm-hmm. So Zach just filmed it and then cut it and was like, oh, we'll just throw it into the DVD version because the Blu-ray version because the VHS version because I still live in 1996, you know? And I think that he just acquiesced instead of, fighting for his vision. I mean, that's a possibility. I might be completely wrong in that. Maybe he cut it for very good reasons.
I don't think it's just up to the director to cut things. I mean, especially something like a Batman v Superman or even the Marvel movies, any big budget movie like that, you know, director has some say with it. But at the end of the day, the studio comes in and is like, yeah, this whole shit with Lex Luthor is way too long. Nobody's going to see a movie that's 3.5 hours long. You got to get it under 2.5.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. And I think instead of, I think it might have been a smart choice, I guess, but really wasn't. You know what I mean? I mean, we have a protagonist who has seemingly, if you just watch the movie, no reason, or an antagonist. Sorry. Yeah. You have an antagonist who, for seemingly no reason, is just fucking with Batman and Superman, which makes for a shitty story, which is probably one of the reasons why it didn't do very well.
Yeah. I mean,
it did well, but it was panned.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one instance where we have a director who has decided to put extra content in to make a more complete movie. I'm sure there are other instances that you could think of, but even if you can't...
Suicide Squad was the same thing. The director, when it came out, was like, hey, check it out.
Yeah, and... there we go. I mean, another DC movie where whoever is in control of the DC properties is putting too many fingers in the pot and trying to make a movie that didn't work. We talked about how the train wreck that Suicide Squad was a couple episodes back, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, case in point, I think it's important for a studio within reason to let a writer team and director do the movie that they're going to do. Don't try and rewrite a movie halfway through just because the trends say that, oh, this Deadpool movie is fucking a box office smash. So let's make it more like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Halfway through the fucking movie. That's insane. That is insane. You completely undermine the ability of the writers to do something like that.
Yeah, and I know that we've harped on it so much, and I don't want to continue with it because I feel like we shit talk the DC movies a lot.
If they'd make better fucking movies, it wouldn't be so easy to do.
I think that's their issue, is they don't have a clear vision. I mean, you go back to Marvel's vision, and you can argue, and I think we've said it before, that Marvel has a very cookie cutter way that they do movies.
Yeah.
They're like, here's how the movies work, and here's how they sell. Do that, throw some different googly eyes on it, but we want the same fucking gingerbread cookie no matter what.
Right.
The DC movies so far seem like they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Justice League trailer?
I haven't watched it yet.
You haven't?
Can you believe it? Okay, so let's get into some really quick background. Last Sunday, I threw my back out. I threw my back out so bad that I could not walk for a day.
I was genuinely concerned for you, and I don't ever feel concerned for anything.
No. I mean, all of those puppies that are behind you that are dead really make that point clear.
Yeah, they were alive when I started.
I know. Just every time I hear a crack, I shudder. Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, I was, and I felt so bad, too, because here I was trying, not hounding you, but being like, okay, let's record a podcast. Let's get it done. I know you don't like recording from home, but let's do it because I want to get an episode up. And then boom, my back goes out and I am fucked. My brain was just completely engulfed in pain. All of my pain receptors were going off and I was nuts. So I was unable to do a podcast.
What did you do to throw your back out?
Nothing. So I was at work and I was bagging a mattress. And we had flipped the mattress up and we bagged it up and we had set it down. We were getting ready to take it off and tape it up. And I turned, and that's when my back went out. So I was just turning. Like,
were you turning at an unreasonable speed?
Nope. I just turned my body and my back decided, okay, we're done. So I hit my knees and yell out in pain. And my boss is like, are you okay? And I was like, nope. Nope, I'm not. I am definitely not okay. Ended up on my knees for like 2 hours while we were trying to figure out if I could get up or how to get me home at the time.
Was it just like you couldn't move your back, or how was it?
Yeah. Essentially what it is I have a bulging disc. I'm a fat dude. I have a bulging disc.
Okay.
Which honestly can happen to anybody. Apparently, from what I have understood from the chiropractor, is that this lower back fatigue starts as early as your late teens.
Okay.
So, I mean, sciatic pain and bulging discs and things like that, it starts as early as that. Of course, I'm heavier, and I've always been heavier. I've been a lot harder on my back than I probably should have with the weight that I am doing the front rolls in high school and stuff.
Yeah, I knew even then that was going to come back to haunt you at some point.
Right? So what it was is just all of a sudden all of the bulging disc decided to pop out a little bit, and it caused a bunch of fluid to rush in and all of my muscles to lock up so it would lock it in place.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't do any more damage to it, and that's where I went from there. So I ended up, we finally get a ride. Ginger's mom comes to pick me up, and Ginger comes.
Are you on your knees the whole time?
I am on my knees like the whole time. I'm able to kind of get upward almost. At one point, I do actually stand, but I can't walk. So I end up crawling through the rain and getting into an SUV. That takes me home. It takes me probably, I have a little ramp that goes up to my back porch.
Yeah.
Brandon knows this, but the listeners don't. And it takes me, I don't know, 20 minutes for me to crawl up this ramp that's maybe 15 feet long.
Yeah, if even that.
So
you're doing like one little baby move and then freezing for a minute or two?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm so sore. My arms are so tired because I've been on my knees and my hands and knees for hours now.
Yeah.
Like I'm completely fatigued. And I get inside and I get to the kitchen and I collapse. I'm finally in the house so I can relax a bit. I laid there for a bit. I ended up monkey crawling into the dining room, and that's where I stayed for like 24 hours.
Yeah, because I mean, your bedroom's up a flight of stairs, so you just knew immediately that's out. There's no way.
Oh yeah, there was no way whatsoever. So anyway, the long story short, that's why we didn't record last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, I did feel bad because here I was trying to push you to help me make an episode, and then I pulled the rug out from under that.
My voodoo doll worked.
That's right, you son of a bitch. If I knew you were serious, I would end this friendship right now.
I pushed the pin in too hard.
That is a pain that I would not wish on my worst enemy. But I've been going to the chiropractor for like a week now, almost every day, and I'm able to walk. It's still a little tender. I've lifted things carefully. He would prefer that I don't lift anything, but I'm still going to because I'm a stubborn man, and that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know my body well enough to know what is going to be too bad on it.
I mean, do you though? Because it sounds like you don't if you threw your back out.
Yeah, but it was really a fluke.
Mm.
Because I had no pain before there. There was no indicator that was going to happen. So what it was is I just shifted my weight wrong, and it caused the disc to bulge out in a certain direction.
Yeah.
So it was already weak. I've thrown my back out before. And usually I can tell when the disc is bulging. There's usually some pain associated with it beforehand.
So you just kind of nurse it a little bit.
Exactly. And I get back into, I nurse it, and I don't do anything too extraneous. Strenuous and extraneous. There we go.
Yes.
Those are the two words that I want. Extraneous. I combine them two.
Regular Shakespeare.
Yep. I'm making up them words. So anyway, I watch it when I know it's acting up and I'm good to go, but this was just a fluke.
So is this just the downward spiral for us?
Oh yeah. We are going to consistently get older and more pained until we can't function in society.
And then we die.
Yep.
I don't like thinking about that.
It's a sad life we lead.
I don't like thinking about like the degradation of our bodies and how like people who are older are going to hear, 2 30-some-year-old guys, early 30s guys, and roll their eyes at like the degradation of their bodies, but like our bodies aren't getting stronger. We're out of our 20s now. Like our bones are about as dense as they're ever going to be.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, we could do ourselves a favor by exercising.
Yeah.
I think that's a something that could happen if we would just take the time to do it.
Yeah, but, I mean, come on.
Yeah, we've got more important things to do, like a podcast.
Exactly.
So speaking of podcasts, let's get back into it. You said you had some more video game news that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on this. So Destiny 2 was announced. Destiny being the Bungie game, the people that made Halo.
Yeah.
Huge first-person shooter MMO on consoles.
Right.
The second one was announced, and I already have issues with Destiny with how they did DLC. I've talked about it before, how one of the DLCs they released, if you didn't buy it, not only did you not get new content, you lost existing content.
Yeah.
I just think that's bullshit. Shady. So anyway, Destiny 2 is announced, and after they announce it, they do trailers worldwide, and the trailer that ran specifically on Sony's site had at the end of the trailer content exclusive to Sony. So Bungie they had this deal with the first Destiny, and they're continuing it with Destiny 2, where PlayStation gets exclusive content first. So DLCs and stuff, some of them may drop the same time as the Xbox One versions do.
Yeah.
But a lot of extra DLC, guns, raids, strikes, stuff like that are going to hit PlayStation a month, 6 months before they hit Xbox One.
Okay, so do you think that 6 months is a realistic thing?
For example, there was stuff that was released in, I can't remember if it's Taken King or Rise of Iron was the last one that came out, but that came out mid last year. And there was stuff that hit on PlayStation, and Bungie on their site said DLC coming to Xbox fall 2016. After this announcement, they went in and unannounced changed it to DLC coming fall 2017. So the exclusive content for Destiny 1 for Xbox users has now been pushed back to fall of this year.
Okay, so they really have pushed it back
almost a full year, if not more. Yes.
So the next question I have is this gameplay that will affect multiplayer?
No, because you can't do cross-platform.
Right.
So Xbox users can't play with PlayStation users. So all the PlayStation users are going to have that newer content. All the Xbox users aren't going to have that content.
Okay, so is this new storyline? Is this just weapons packs and upgrades or maps or something to that effect? Or
all of the above? At least on Destiny 1. They haven't really said what it is with Destiny 2 yet, but
okay,
if you were to follow history, it's going to be the same stuff. Going to be new maps and shit like that.
Okay, but the real question is a new storyline?
Kind of. There's not a huge storyline with Destiny. It's more just doing raids and stuff. There's a main story that you can bust through in like 5 hours.
Okay. See, I have no problem with that. If you're playing the game for the story and somebody's getting the story before you, that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that it's important for all of that stuff to be released at the same time, so you don't get spoilers.
You are getting story in the raids.
Yeah.
So that you are losing out on some storyline.
But is it a story that people already know? Like, I mean, do they talk about it beforehand? Like in the DLC content, is the story talked about or what have you? Just if it's little snippets... like World of Warcraft, since we're talking about raids and stuff like that, sometimes that raid content will release in Europe before it's released in the US.
By hours or by weeks or what?
Usually it's maybe a couple days sometimes.
Okay.
It usually it's hours, but sometimes there are things that happen, Even still, I mean, all of that story is kind of released beforehand in little video snippets of like, oh, this is the new upcoming patch. Here's some of the storyline. They always do a little something to kind of prime you for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case with Destiny, then even if it is releasing a little bit of storyline, as long as everybody gets that storyline at the same time, if they just have to wait for content on a different console, then and it doesn't affect the actual gameplay between PS2, wow, PS4 and Xbox, then I don't see a problem.
Yeah. Well, what the argument that I've seen, and this has been going on for a while now, and it really has kind of come to the forefront, at least in the, Mos Eisleys of the internet that I hang out.
Right. It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
We must be cautious. People saying that it's 2017, there should be no more console exclusives. You should be able to get Gears of War on PlayStation. You should be able to get Uncharted on Xbox One. You should be able to get Breath of the Wild on PlayStation 4.
There'd be a whole lot more money. I mean, you would see the games themselves jump up in price considerably for that.
To spend, because they'd be spending the time to get them to work on different platforms?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the code in these platforms are all written the same, Mm-hmm. They're based on different engines, etc. and so on. So to think that you can just release them for the same price for all consoles is a little presumptuous.
I think that the argument is really fucking stupid. It kind of stems from the fact that people are pissed about console exclusives, and I don't like it. I have an Xbox One. There's all kinds of games on PS4 that look like a blast, and if I had the money for a PS4 as well, I would have one in a second.
Right.
And I'm bummed that there are games. But that's what drives me to want to buy a PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
If suddenly you can buy every game on every system, these companies with consoles feed on brand loyalty. That's what gets people to buy an Xbox One over a PlayStation every fucking time is brand loyalty.
Yeah.
When you suddenly muddy the waters where you have Sony and Microsoft both making a system that can play the same games, it doesn't matter anymore. Brand loyalty is only going to carry it so far, you know?
Yeah, sure.
You have people, Kevin's a perfect example, our friend Kevin, who is always going to buy an Xbox system because he's going to have Halo no matter what. And he might own a PlayStation 4 at some point, but he gets the money to buy a next-gen console right off the bat. He's getting an Xbox One.
Yeah, and that's because many of his titles that he loves are on Xbox.
Yeah, and just the argument of having all games on every system to me, and I see people really getting behind this idea, like it's 2017, we should be able to play Xbox One and PlayStation players should all be able to play on the same servers against each other, and I should be able to buy this on PlayStation. And it's just like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And even if it could work that way, personally, I wouldn't want it to because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right? Because at that point, what's the point in having two different competing consoles?
Yeah. Gears of War, Uncharted, Horizon Zero Dawn that I mentioned earlier, those are fucking system sellers. You buy a PlayStation because you look and say, only PlayStation has The Last Guardian. Only Xbox has Forza, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, until we get to the point where there's just one console maker out there, then there's no point in trying to make games for multiple systems. You know, if there's an that's the whole point of having an exclusive is, okay, it's only going to be on this system.
Yeah.
And they can do so much more, I would assume. I'm not a game designer, but I would assume that if they know that system well enough, they could do so much more with the game that if they wanted to release it on a multi-platform status, they'd really have to dumb the game down so it makes the coding between the two more cost effective.
Yeah, a lot of the hardware is the same between between Xbox One and PlayStation 4. The Nintendo Switch is a joke as far as hardware goes.
Sure, but I mean, it's the operating system. It's got to be a different operating system.
Yeah, and I mean, you have like Naughty Dog makes Uncharted, I believe. If I'm wrong, don't yell at me, listeners, but I'm pretty sure Naughty Dog makes it. Naughty Dog is an exclusive to Sony. I do know that. They massage that code. They get those dev kits and they massage and get every little bit out of it, and they make those games run perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, and if sure they would make good games, they got a bigger team and they could port them to Xbox, that'd be great, blah, blah, blah. But that's what you lose when you suddenly have games on every system, is those people who know exactly how the coding of your system works and can get every little bit of juice out of that thing. Just milk it dry.
And you can't... For the listeners, he's just milking something into his mouth.
A cow.
He's just milking a cow into his mouth. It definitely looked like a cow. It didn't look like anything else.
Fresh milk straight from the teeth.
Straight from the teeth, that's right. I lost whatever I was going to say, but the long and short of it is I agree with you. I think that pushing for this single system title multi-system title is kind of bullshit. I think you really lose a lot in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a super simple game, you know?
And not to sound like a little PC master race here, but if you really want to be able to get a bunch of exclusives on one system, build a gaming PC.
Yeah.
Because most of them come out for PC no matter what.
Yeah. There you go.
So fucking deal with it.
It's a hell of a lot.
Person I'm arguing with.
I guess it's not necessarily cheaper to build a gaming PC than to buy a system, but it's a hell of a lot more fun. And you can do it in pieces if you know what you're doing. It's not hard to build a PC.
I mean, you're looking at like a mid-tier gaming PC, you could probably put together for like $700.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find, it's a big thing on YouTube right now in like tech circles. You can look online, budget gaming PCs, and these YouTubers, it's almost a challenge that they're like, somebody will be like, build a budget gaming PC for $400. And they will find every fucking little piece and build it and be like, here's the top tier games. Here's the specs you can run it at. You can run newest game at medium settings, $400.
Yeah.
Including case, not including monitor and keyboard. So, I mean, gaming PCs are reasonable to buy.
Yeah.
But still, you know, you sacrifice. I have a pretty nice gaming PC and I still do more console gaming.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier, you know. I can
it's more
Netflix
convenient
from the couch and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, you could do that with your computer if you had the knowledge to do so, or if you had. Well, it's like me. I mean, I can be a world away and access my PC at home and do whatever I want to it. I can port that video from my PC over to my projector in my living room and have an 80-inch PC screen going. There are always workarounds. And that's the other plus about being a PC gamer, is that you can fucking do that stuff and you don't have to. I mean, it takes a little more work, but hell, you learn something new. You get to be the nerd king of your friends and say, look what I can do.
Well, and even then, too, you have the Steam Link box, which it's a little box connected to Wi-Fi. You hook it up to your TV. It streams the games from your computer to your TV with a Steam controller, and it's a console.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Popping out another one of those classic Remington lines.
That's right. So, what else do we have then? We've talked about a lot of. Yeah, I heard Microsoft will be unveiling the next Xbox specs on Thursday.
Yeah, for the new Project Scorpio thing.
Yeah.
I really don't have an opinion on that until I hear more.
Yeah.
A bunch of game devs, not just Microsoft exclusive devs, but just game devs in general, have taken to Twitter within the past few weeks and have been hands-on with Scorpio. It's really as good as people are saying it is. Well,
I guess that's good. Eurogamer.net tweeted out to clear up some speculation. Digital Foundry will have an exclusive Xbox Scorpio reveal on Eurogamer this Thursday at 2 p.m. UK or 6 a.m. Pacific. So that's what we'll be looking at for Thursday. And I don't know, if I'm lucky, I might have this episode up by then.
Maybe.
So you can go check out that news.
Did you have some news you want to talk about? Because I think we should start wrapping up here because my computer's going to die in probably about 20 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. You don't even have it plugged in?
Well, where I'm sitting to try to get the best sound, I can't run it. There's nowhere close where there's a plug.
There's not a plug behind your couch?
Yeah, but my couch is like 8 feet from the wall. My charger's not that long. There's not...
You don't own an extension cord?
I don't think I do, actually.
I'm pretty sure you don't. It was kind of a joke on my end, I guess, since I have so many extension cords.
You're just extending everything.
I just extend the life.
You don't even use them. You just whip them around.
Yeah, I just use them as whips for the cats when they're naughty. I don't know. I was reading a couple stories about a Marvel executive saying, and I don't know.
Is this the story we were linked?
Hold on. I think it is. I think this is the one that Terry linked us.
Random bit of news to drop while you're looking that up. The X-Men TV show trailer is being shot.
Oh, yeah?
Pilot is being shot, yeah.
Which, is it just called X-Men or what?
Its working title is Gifted.
Okay. So is this going to take place in Xavier's school for mentally challenged kids?
There's really nothing out so far about anything about it except who some of the actors are in it.
Okay.
And Bryan Singer, the director of most of the X-Men, the newer X-Men movies, is directing the pilot.
Oh, that's cool, I guess.
So this show's not necessarily even going to air. They're working on a pilot now. So we're probably a ways away from it.
I gotcha. Okay. This article was shared to us by our illustrious Viscount Terry Ervin II. This is on Daily Wire. I also have a couple of different articles pulled up for it. But the long and short of it is David Gabriel, the vice president of sales at Marvel, said that comic book retailers were reporting a drop-off in interest in the new diversity-oriented comics. Quote, "What we heard was that people didn't want any more diversity. They didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard, whether we believe that or not. I do not know that that's really true, but that's what we saw in sales. Any character that was diverse, any character that was new, our female characters, anything that was not core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up." So let me get your initial knee-jerk reaction on that.
Okay, I've actually read a decent amount about this, even before Terry had linked this article.
Okay.
The problem, and I really don't have an opinion one way or the other, so I'll just present the problem as I've seen it argued, is that Marvel is forcing diversity more than integrating it.
Yeah.
And I've started going through and reading the Civil War II storyline that ran, I think, last year, 2016 through most of 2016.
Okay.
And I hadn't read Marvel Comics outside of like Superior Spider-Man in 2015 or whenever it was.
Yeah.
I don't really read a whole lot of comics, but I started to read it and was like, okay, I'll check these out on whatever Marvel's comic app is. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And it just, the writing was not very good.
Okay.
First off. And I think that more than anything, it's not that people don't want diversity in comics. I really feel like, and I could be being optimistic, that I feel like in general, even though you have people, you definitely have people who are like, oh, a feminist agenda because you have a female character. I hope that those people are more the vocal minority.
Yeah.
From what I've read, it just seems like they're not very well written, and it seems a little ham-handed. Like, Thor is female Thor now. Tony Stark's retired, and the new Iron Man is Riri Williams.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but there's a couple more characters that are...
Steve Rogers being replaced with Sam Wilson. Spider-Man not being Peter Parker, now being Miles Morales.
Yeah, well, and Miles Morales is pretty well loved as a Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the things that this particular article, this is on the Daily Wire, is the one that Terry shared for us. And I agree with the statement that the Miles Morales comics were really pretty good.
Yeah.
But the Riri Williams as Iron Man, that's really hard for my mouth to say, apparently. I sound stupid saying it. Riri Williams.
Riri Williams.
Just aren't written that well.
Yeah.
So I agree with your take that it's less the fact that they're being diverse and more the fact that diversity is being ham-fisted in, and just to say, look at us, we're diverse. Ooh.
Yeah.
But this goes to a larger problem, I think, that we have today, where there is a much bigger push for this incorporation of everybody at the detriment of everybody. Like, instead of just passively accepting people for who they are, it's like we're being forced to accept people for who they are.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that necessarily is a bad thing.
We're being...
You still have a lot of people who believe homosexuality is a sin,
Yeah, yeah.
But you look at the 90s, especially like the Will and Grace era. Sure, you can look back on you look back at gay characters in 80s movies, and they were like twinkle toes fairy gay people. And then you look at Will and Grace, and while you had whatever that character's name on Will and Grace was, Jack, who was very, very stereotypically gay, but then you had Will, who was just seemed like a normal heterosexual dude, except he liked penises.
Right.
And people got more used to it, partially because the media does have an effect on that.
Oh, sure.
But it's just like, I think we've talked about it before too. It was episodes and episodes ago. There was some video game that came out and they re-released it and they rewrote a character to not be sexual. Do you remember that? It was like a D&D game.
Yeah.
She was a very sexual character and they rewrote her where she wasn't sexual anymore.
because there was this outcry that, women are not objects sort of deal. But that's who she personally was as a character. She was using her feminine wiles to get what she wanted.
Yeah, and I think then I was more against the people who were complaining about it. Yeah. And my argument there was, again, just like, pick your battles. When you make everything a fucking battle, people just tune it out and it's this background noise. And, I hate to use the political terms, but people who aren't so left-leaning just kind of put it all out as like, oh, those are liberals crying over something.
Yeah.
And when you look at Marvel Comics, they just didn't do a good job of it. It's just like, hey, Thor's a woman now. Hey, Iron Man's a lady, a black lady now. Hey, this character, the new Hulk, is a little Asian boy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fine in and of itself. And to their credit, I understand why they have to do that, because they're going to be hard pressed to spend the time to print, however many thousands or hundreds of thousands of comics they do. People are way more likely to buy an Iron Man regardless of who it is versus creating an entirely new property.
I don't think that revamping the characters are a bad idea. I mean, it takes, instead of rewriting, instead of new 52ing things and just taking old storyline and just gutting it and saying, we're going to start all over. and let's do it this way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like that, just because it seems like you're erasing the past of everything and then not moving forward. You're just telling new stories that you could have told just by integrating, like Marvel's doing, new faces in the same roles. So now we have, okay, Iron Man, Tony Stark is retired, but Riri Williams has taken over, and now we get this new set of stories. She reacts differently to threats than Tony would. You know, I don't know a whole lot about the character, but if the writing is good, then it doesn't really matter if she is black or if she is a lady, you know, as long as the writing is there. But again, we go back to this idea where the focus is not on the story. The focus is on, it's a black lady playing Iron Man.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't care who it is as long as the story is good. But if the writers are taking that story and ham-fisting the fact that this is this new person of diversity, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, like I saw an example when I was reading about this. It was a couple panels from Female Thor where she's punching a guy and yelling about smashing the patriarchy as she's punching the guy.
Yeah.
So it's just like you said, I think people are receptive to new characters, and people are, you're always going to have people who are like, Tony Stark's my only Iron Man. You're making her a black chick, blah, 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 racist terms. You're always going to have that.
Yeah.
And you're not going to win those people over. It doesn't matter. Fuck them anyway.
Right.
It's all down to story. And from the ones that I've read, Riri Williams, she was introduced in the storyline that I'm reading now. It's basically all of the comics that followed the Civil War II storyline. So she was introduced. She's only been in a couple of issues that I've read so far, and like, she's fine. I like her. She's a cool character.
Yeah.
But it irritates me that guy's quote was like, I guess people just aren't ready for diversity. I read that and was a little like, come on, dude, fuck you. Like,
well, I think he's being facetious about it.
Is he? Because I kind of read it more as him kind of saying genuinely, like, I don't think people are ready for the diversity we're offering, instead of taking the blame of like, maybe we should write better.
Yeah. And I mean, going over to CBR.com, we see no diversity didn't kill Marvel's comic sales. Rereading the bit of quote there, people didn't want any more diversity, didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard, whether we believe it or not. I don't know that that's really true, but that's what we saw in sales. So I don't think that he's saying that people aren't ready for it. I think that he's kind of being, I guess people aren't ready for diversity. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's saying it genuinely.
No, that didn't sound genuine at all when I said it like that.
Yeah, it sounded like somebody being real shitty. Like, I guess you're not ready for diversity.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Is
no, you'd say it like, I guess people aren't ready for diversity.
Anyway, Gabriel walked back on his original statement a bit the next day, promising our fans and retailers are excited about these new heroes. And let me be clear, our new heroes are not going anywhere. Diversity is and remains a tempting target to blame for Marvel's current sales slump. It paints a simple narrative. Marvel tried to reach out to new audiences, but the sales weren't there. It means all Marvel has to do is shift back its focus to its core superheroes and core audience, and everything will be fine. So what the CBR article says is that it's less about the diversity problem. That is not a problem. You know what I mean? But this saying that, you know, people didn't want any more diversity. The sales on Marvel's superhero line have slumped across the board since the end of Secret Wars, with only a single ongoing series selling more than 50,000 copies a month to specialty shops. While all new, all different Marvel Now started out strong in October 2015, it quickly sputtered, with many books hemorrhaging in sales, especially after DC's Rebirth launch. One of the main culprits is that the all-new, all-different relaunch turned out to not be all that new or different, with at least 24 series continuing on post-Secret Wars, with the same creative team, or at least the same writer. In almost every single case, those continuing series saw dramatic sales drops after their initial launch.
So people were just kind of like, oh, okay, this really isn't anything new.
Yeah, so it's really, it's less that there was a diversity thing and more that it was more of the same. The other culprit he cites, and I guess I should say the author, Charles Paul Hoffman, is that between October 2015 and February 2017, Marvel launched or relaunched at least 104 ongoing superhero series for an average of about 6 new number ones a month.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, a very large number of these series have failed to find an audience. Roughly a quarter were canceled, with 10 or fewer issues published, or at least another 7 books launched in late 2016, early 17, appear to be very likely to meet the same fate, even if their cancellation has not yet been formally announced. So, really it sounds like it's less the diversity problem and more that they oversaturated the market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what exactly is going on as far as the comic book world goes. From the business side of it, I can't speak to that at all. I mean, is that a dying industry?
Comics?
Paper comics.
Paper comics? I don't know. Really, that would be a very good question to have Jordan answer for us, since he owns a comic shop, without digging too tenderly into his actual business. It'd be interesting to see a broad insight from a comic shop owner to see what is really, are we seeing, maybe we should get him on and talk about that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, let's try for that. Let's try for that next week and see if we can do that. Okay. We'll continue this conversation hopefully next week with Jordan's input. I think that would be nice.
Yes.
And hey, it might be our first crossover. Yay!
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be our first.
Well, no, but
our first that I'm on, which is the first that matters. Yeah,
there you go. So, do we have anything else? And we'll just leave that cliffhanger right there. Is it diversity, or is it just an oversaturation of market that's killing comics?
Next time on
Dueling Ogres. Next time on Dragon Ball Ogres. Next time on Dueling Ball Z.
Studio Ghibli is re-releasing
Krillin.
6 Miyazaki films in theaters this year.
All starring Krillin.
Sunday, June. I won't say the days. I'll just say the dates because reading all that would be way too long.
Okay.
My Neighbor Totoro, June 25th and June 26th. Kiki's Delivery Service, July 23rd and 24th. Castle in the Sky, August 27th and 28th. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, September 24th and 25th. Spirited Away, October 29th and October 30th. Howl's Moving Castle, November 26th and November 27th. And Moon, Guardian of the Moon, dates TBD.
So they're re-releasing them?
Yes, in theaters for 2 days.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So you can see them on the big screen again. It's basically look up showtimes, find the nearest theater to you sort of thing.
Oh, man, that's stupid.
Yeah, it won't be around here at all.
Yeah, I want to watch those on theater, though. I have a theater in my house, essentially, so.
Yeah. And your floors are even more sticky than a regular theater's is.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I strive for authenticity.
I stick them extra.
I get them real sticky, I do. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You've disgusted me even over the internet.
Yay!
Even your ones and zeros have disgusted me.
All right, so last off on the docket there, Brandon, you said you wanted to doubt on Viscount Terry and talk about Thunderwells.
Yeah, I have been reading Thunderwells like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and I've just got maybe 30 to 50 pages left somewhere in there. And I'm really enjoying it. And I kind of worry sometimes when we talk about it because, Terry's been on, Stephen Hines has been on, James Patrick has been on. And I don't want it to sound like because we have these people on, we just automatically give them a pass. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I don't want people to think that because somebody has been on and is friendly with us that we're not going to be honest as far as what a review is.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely enjoying Thunderwells so far. I've read his short stories. I've read a little bit of Flank Hawk, and for whatever reason, couldn't really get into Flank Hawk as a series.
Yeah.
Thunderwells, I sat down and I got through most of it in 2 nights, reading like a couple hours each night before bed.
Well, Flank Hawk for you seemed like it was just the amount of military strategy that just was not up your alley.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of military stories. And Terry, I know we've had him on. I don't think he has a military background. I mean, Terry wasn't in the military.
No.
But he's very knowledgeable about guns and tanks and things like that.
Oh, sure. I mean, the man does his research for whatever he's writing.
Yeah, very heavily, clearly.
Yeah.
Thunder Wells has a lot of that. And after I finish this, I'm going to go back and try Flying Hawk again.
Right.
Now that I've kind of gotten into it some, because Thunder Wells at the beginning had a little bit of that too. There's a lot of focus on, I wouldn't say focus, but there's a lot of points where he's talking specifically about the guns he has, the gauges of the bullets, things like that.
Yeah.
Because it starts out, the main character, Jack, is a survivalist. It's after aliens have attacked. We've talked about it and read the back of the book before.
Yeah.
So it's him talking about how he survives in the woods. So it goes very heavily into his day-to-day, what he does like a Boy Scout to survive, setting up places to catch rainwater and how he boils it. He uses ceramic straws and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of time is spent on military, not military necessarily, but on battle. A lot of time is spent on very descriptive scenes of when two characters are in a firefight, ducking behind this and reloading my gun and firing at this, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Which I'm not really a fan of in books most of the time.
Yeah.
The story engrossed me enough that once I got past that initial bit for myself, I really got into the book. Clearly, I finished it or am close to finishing it now.
Do you feel like it kind of tapered off, that kind of very descriptive writing? Do you feel that it tapered off a little more into the story now that it was established?
No. I mean, that the fight scenes are very, very descriptive.
Yeah.
But that kind of speaks to the story and it fits in with the story of the book. And as I continued further on, I realized that that's part of what it was doing. In the scheme of things, this story isn't a grand story. It's not skipping continent to continent and going into space and stuff like that. It's a very insular story of him in his woods and then doing the things that he does relatively locally in the scheme of things,
Yeah.
But it's all about his survival and the survival of the human race later on. And so it's very focused on what it would be like, being a militia with guns that you've cobbled together from bodies and things that don't necessarily work correctly, fighting off these aliens. Like there's an alien in the book called a dozer that you just can't hurt. Like you can fire missiles at it and it doesn't kill it. It's just almost impossible. Of course, they figure out ways to harm them later. And I don't remember 100% how they do manage to take one down, but they do manage to. But it's like a big thing. These things, for a lot of the book, are like these kind of grim reapers that if you see one coming and you can't get away, there's absolutely nothing you can do.
Right.
Like shooting them with a tank annoys them more than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really got into it, and I'm not going to give it away because if you're a fan of the podcast and haven't checked out the book, you can get it on Amazon relatively cheaply. I think it's between like $8 and $12. It's not an expensive book. And we mentioned before, he told us that there was a Easter egg, a Dueling Ogres Easter egg in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the interview you did with him at the Classic Plastics, whatever.
The Classic Plastics Toy and Comic Expo.
Exactly. I always mess up the name. He reiterated to you, it's something that's in there. It's very small, but it's something that you won't be able to miss.
Right.
So I caught it as I was reading, and I was expecting it to be less obvious as it is. I mean, I was very tickled to see. It's not like a sort of passing comment of like the two aliens fought as if they were ogres dueling in something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a straight shout out to us in the book.
Yeah.
Which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, you shared it out to me since I haven't had a chance to read it yet, which completely ruined the surprise. Thank you, Brandon.
When I saw it, I was like, I'm not going to tell Remington what it is. I want him to read it. And then literally 20 minutes later, I'd taken a picture and sent it to you. I'm not very good at that. I read it later on during the weekend. I had my daughter and I read the, couple sentences passage where we're mentioned.
Yeah.
She was kind of nonplussed. She didn't really care, but still, I was like, listen to this.
Oh, well, from the look of it, it would be something that if people didn't listen to the podcast, they wouldn't have any idea.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's there enough that somebody might think, I wonder if that's a thing, and then Google us and possibly find us.
Yeah, that would be something that would be really neat.
Yeah. So if you're listening to us because you've read the book Thunder Wells, call in.
Yeah.
And we'll send you another one.
We'll send you a flank hawk.
Yes.
All right, so does that wrap up your little thing on Thunder Wells?
Yes, it does. I'm enjoying it.
So do we have any shout-outs, Brandon?
We sure do, and I got them up already.
Oh, you are the best.
From our episode 2 weeks ago, Bree, my girlfriend, commented on The Big Bang Theory and said she hates The Big Bang Theory and that it is lazy, quote, comedy.
You're lazy comedy, Bree.
Harsh words, Remington. Viscount Terry W. Ervin II said if there were over 100 new planets, if Dueling Ogres supported it, maybe we'd get to name one of the planets, or at least one of the new planet's moons. The elementary school kids would have to memorize them. He also says that demoting Pluto is a bunch of malarkey.
Malarkey!
Pretty rough. Bored astronomers wanting to make themselves relevant and or make news and be in the spotlight for a short while.
Harsh words from the Viscount.
Thus fueling the ongoing war between sci-fi writers, sci-fi fantasy writers, and astronomers.
That's right.
This is how the world ends.
That's right.
He's also never actually watched a full episode of The Big Bang Theory in very short portions, a combination of little time available and not much interest in the characters / premise.
Honestly, you're not missing out on much, Terry. I don't know why it's as popular as it is.
Because he's intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Hott has said, as for the show, I'm hoping he's talking about Big Bang Theory and not our show. I got bitter and quit watching them a while ago after contract negotiations put them in the millions per season bracket. So he's talking about us. Yeah.
He's talking about us. He quit listening. He also
still looks up Kaylee Kuoko on Google sometimes.
Well, who doesn't, to be fair?
Yeah.
He also said over on Twitter that we are neither squeaky nor clean, but a great episode. Either way, engrossing, and couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we got our raises into the millions per season bracket.
That's right. We don't muck about. That's all there was to that, Brandon. That's all there was. Yeah.
I feel like we've used a lot of good words. Putz, muck
about, malarkey. So if you have any questions or comments or you'd like to hear yourself on air, you can call us at 978-DU-OGRES. That's 978-386-4737. We still have a copy of Flank Hawk available to a lucky listener who wants to call in.
Literally at this point, if you're thinking maybe I should call in and win, maybe I can win, you'll win.
You'll win. You'll totally win.
You'll be the person who calls. Be the change you want to see.
That's right. Be the change you want to see. Oh, that's good. That's a good outlook, Brandon.
Pay it forward.
You can also reach us on Twitter at Dueling Ogres. Email us at duelingogres@gmail.com or leave a comment on the Facebook page. Make sure to check out our website, duelingogres.com, for articles pertaining to some of your favorite geek news. Hasn't been a whole lot going up on it. I know Larry is still working on an article. He's slogging through that feng shui last I checked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. From a few episodes back where we asked what people wanted to hear about.
I've started working on an article. I'm not really sure which way to tackle it.
I told you, man.
I'm working on it.
I told you the way to tackle it. You should do it the way I suggested. It'll be so good that way.
Yeah.
You can do it. I believe in you. You don't have to go one way. You can go both ways, like a bisexual. And finally, be sure to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or find us on YouTube, iHeartRadio, or Satchel, where you can donate to the show, or nearly anywhere else you can find a podcast. So until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt.
And your tusks sharp.
Good night.
Good night. How synced up was I with you?
Not at all, but it's okay. I'll fix it in post.
I said it literally at the same time as you.
Good night.
You gotta go slow.
Okay. Good night.
It's hard because it cuts you out when I talk.
Perfect.
Hey, should I mute myself when I'm not talking?
No.
Okay.
No, I see we're being recorded on two different
Gotcha. Okay.
track, so it doesn't matter. You can fucking cough into the mic while I'm talking if you want.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. See, it doesn't matter.
The right stuff.
You just
Can
won't
I
hear
think
me.
it's on the block end of the microphone?
Yeah. You just won't hear anything I'm saying because it mutes me, apparently.
Good.
All of that story is, yeah, I just farted.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did the stereotypical lean.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a fart?
Several farts in a row.
It sounded like somebody knocking on a door.
Mm-hmm. That was the poop knocking on my butt door.
Maturity.
Yep. So anyway, all right, so does that wrap up? All right, so does